Okay, we have the pleasure of welcoming Conor Neill today to our interview series, Leaders Hum. I'm Ashwarya Jain from the peopleHum team. Before we begin, just a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 15,000 visitors a month and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Conor. Conor is a lecturer in the top-ranked business school in the world, the IESE Business School. He is a leading keynote speaker in various global conferences, including the European HR Summit and the HR Directors Summit. He focuses on leadership training and the psychology of mental strength. He's also the president of Vistage, the leading CEO organization around the world, a teacher, author, speaker, and whatnot. We are happy to welcome Conor Neill to our interview series. Welcome, Conor. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you very much, Ash. That's a wonderful introduction. I think someone once said that the more famous you are, the shorter your introduction. When you introduce Bill Gates, you say, "This is Bill Gates." So clearly I have some work to do to reduce the length of my introduction.
No, I think you've done wonderful work in your TEDx talks and all the public speaking, the lectures that you've given. They're very, very interesting. And you always have that eternal smile on your face, which is such a delight to see,
This smile is how I survived school. I remember when I was 12 years old, I just moved to secondary school. I was in Ireland, and I don't know exactly what I'd done, but I know it was wrong. It had broken some rule of the school. And the vice principal of the school had seen me do it. He came marching over into the classroom, straight up to me, and he said, "Neil," and said something. And then he said, "Never lose that smile. If it wasn't for that smile, you'd have gone into detention." And ever since then, I've realized that it's probably a reaction I have when I'm nervous, but it's a wonderful reaction to have when you're nervous. That it looks like a real smile. Other people smile. There's a thing in human beings called emotional contagion. And emotional contagion is we give back the energy that we receive from other people. If you walk into a room and you're nervous and you're shy and you're waiting for someone to approach you, you give that out. You can contaminate the room with a waiting to approach, with a fear. If you come into a room with a smile and an open curiosity and truly are interested about who are these human beings in the room, it's amazing how that just contaminates the room and they come towards you. And for what I've been working in the world of leadership, either as a leader in my own business. I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. I've been teaching in a business school. Over 30,000 participants have gone through my rooms. And what I'm very interested in is how we convey emotion, convey a way of being in the world to other people. And I think we can be in a resourceful state of mind or a victim state of mind. And the leader's job is really to recognize the state of mind in themselves and in others, be aware of it, and know what tools they have to be able to move from an unproductive, uncreative state of being to an open, curious, creative state of being. And there's never been a time that it's more important to be able to shift yourself and shift others into a positive, proactive, creative, resourceful state of mind than right now. I think right now over 3 billion human beings are on lockdown of some type. In India, across Europe, the United States is now beginning, Latin America is there. Lockdown. People are in their homes. They're not able now in Spain to go to their place of work unless they work in a hospital or in the food supply chain. And this question of, when there's this distance, physical distance, how as leaders do we get people into a positive, resourceful state of mind? And I think you have some questions today just on leadership in general and leadership at times such as we are living right now.
Absolutely. And these are such unique times that, mankind is going through. I think we've never really been in such a situation where we are all so remote and we are practicing something called as social distancing, which is very, very unique, right? And, in this situation of a pandemic, it's really a wake-up call to enhance our workplaces and how do we really match it with the future of work. So, what do you think are the changes, according to you, that are inevitable given this situation of, coronavirus?
I think there's been a video doing the rounds of the internet over the last 2-3 days from Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek is the author of a book called Why, first Why. If you start with why, other things become clear. And I think this is a very powerful idea. If you can get clear about why your business exists, if you can get clear why you exist, it clarifies what to do, how to do it, with whom you're going to do it. And Simon Sinek was saying, this is not unprecedented. The internet changed businesses. There's taxi drivers today who are fighting against Uber. And their way of fighting is the way some of us are fighting against COVID-19 or coronavirus. I think also, it's never happened in our lifetime, but Ash, you and me have short lifetimes in regard to the total time humanity has been around. In the 14th, 15th century, Europe had a series of plagues, the bubonic plague, the Black Plague, that moved across and wiped out anywhere from 25 to 50% of the population. And I'm sure at times like that, quarantine, sealing yourself into your home, closing off the boundaries of villages and towns were ways that people responded. Perhaps what's different now is back in the 14th, 15th century, when you closed yourself into the village, there was no news coming in from China, from India, from US. Today we get a choice of what you feed into your brain. And you can feed yourself 24 hours a day of bad news about deaths and growing infection. And if that's the choice of what you allow to come into your mind, you're going to put yourself into a certain state. And unless you're a very strong person with very clear who you are and how you want to engage with the world, if that's what you feed into your mind, you're going to find yourself in a state where you're a victim, where you feel that nothing is worth doing, that it's hopeless. And I think to some degree, as human beings, we cannot control what we think. You can't tell yourself to stop thinking something, but you can begin to change where you pay attention. You can decide where you look at. And what I share a lot with leaders is, making a decision of what do you focus on is a very important decision as a leader, because it's going to influence your state of mind. It's going to influence what data you have to be able to take decisions, what you're thinking about when you're evaluating the pros and cons of decisions. And I like to say that we each we have our 5 or 6 senses, and we imagine that we see everything. And we know for a fact there are animals that have senses that we don't have. A bat has sonar. Dolphins have some sort of magnetic sense. Pigeons have some sort of magnetic homing sense. So we know for a fact there are animals that perceive a part of the universe that we are not physiologically capable of seeing. But yet we imagine that we see everything. And I think a really important step in maturing as a conscious human being is realizing that you're seeing a tiny little small part of the universe. It's like, our eyes see out in front, our ears hear what we're listening to. There's a million things going on that we're not seeing. And to become aware that I'm seeing the world like I'm looking through a tiny keyhole. And if you're looking into a room through a keyhole, and you put the keyhole down so that you see just down, as you walk along the street, you're going to find the dog crap, you're going to find dirt, you're going to find muck, you're going to find stuff. If you put that keyhole up at the level of faces, as you walk along the street, you're going to see people that you know. You're going to see people that remind you of an old teacher or your father. And if you put it up into the sky or up to the buildings, you'll see something else. So three people's experience of one street will be different based on where they decide to place this little keyhole and look at the world. And I think right now, more than ever, being conscious about what information you let come into your mind. And if I could get the whole world to do one thing, it would be to start every morning with what we call 10-10-10. One of my mentors, Warren Rustand, taught me years ago this way of beginning a day. And he said, when you wake up in the morning, before you let email or life start to flood in, get control of yourself. And get control of yourself, he says it's 10-10-10. 10-10-10. First 10 minutes, read something inspiring. Read something uplifting. At the moment, I'm reading Ryan Holiday's books on Stoicism. And these are books where you can just sort of pick open a page, any page. It has a paragraph. You just read it, reflect on it. And sometimes in 10-10-10, that 10 minutes of reading, I read 3 or 4 just from random from the book. And some of them are from Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor from over 2,000 years ago. And he faced tough times. And how did he face it is something that just moves me from I'm just a little human being living in this century to, wow, I want to be a better version of me. So the first 10 minutes, read something uplifting. The next 10 minutes is you get things. This is my journal. And my journal is full of writing, ideas, people I've met. One of the things that I try to do every morning, 10 minutes reading, 10 minutes writing in my journal, just reflections, thoughts, plans for the day, anything that is just swimming around my head. The last 10 minutes, just sit and it's be grateful. Just go through some of the things that I'm grateful for. These days, one of the things that starts to happen in that last 10 minutes is switch over to who needs me. Who needs me to show up in their life in some way today? And I run a business here in Spain. And the first few days post-quarantine, I was thinking a lot about me, how it affects me, how it changes my life. And it took quite a bit of effort and quite a few mornings of connecting to. We're not the first human population ever to face a pandemic. We're not the first human beings ever to face a challenge. It can feel like that sometimes. And you have to read books and you have to speak to older people to get a sense that life has not been just this paradise and this is the first stop off the paradise train. Life goes in these cycles of up and down. But to me, starting each day, getting consciously in control of what I feed into my mind, making sure that the first 10 minutes are some inspiring, positive things that raise me to want to be the best version of myself. Take a few minutes to get words down into this notebook. And myself, I've been writing in a journal since I was 14 years old. If I can get a second thing out to all of humanity. So if the first is take control of the first moments of your day. If you can just put yourself in a good, conscious state first thing in the morning, then the whole rest of the day hits you in a slightly different way. The second is this, writing your life down. And I think the greatest book that you or I or anyone could ever read on leading a good life is our own life well documented, our own life written down, what we expected and what turned out, what questions we had when we were 15, 18, 20, 25, where we were, who we were with, what filled us up and what bored us at each stage of our life. And I was lucky that at age 14 I had a teacher in my school, a teacher called Mr. Matz. And Mr. Matz, the last 5 minutes of every lesson, his rule, pen touching paper in your journal. Every single day. And I remember 14-year-old in school being told that you're going to put your pen to your paper every day and write. The first day, I don't know why Mr. Matz is asking us to do this. What's the point? Day 2, he told us he's not going to read our journal. And At 14, I'd figured out school. My objective in school is to do the minimum amount of effort to get the grades I needed to move to the next level, nothing more. And here Mr. Matz was asking us to write down in a book that no one else will ever read anything that we want. By day 4, I started to write. My brother said something to me today. Day 5, my mother looked a bit distracted in the car on the way to school. And ever since 14 years old, I've found a bit of time each day just to note down where I am, who I'm with, what's going on in my mind, what I'm worried about, what doubts I have. Sometimes I take a lot of time and fill a few pages. Sometimes it's just where I am, who I'm with, and one line. But there's, I can tell you where I was, who I was with, what I was thinking about at 18, 22, 33. And that resource right now. So, we're facing tough times. 2008 was far tougher for me than right now. 2008, I was an entrepreneur leading a private jet airline that I had founded. We had 16 aircraft on the books. And July 2008, I felt like the greatest successful entrepreneur in the world, targeting riches and fame. September 2008, Lehman Brothers, the bank, went into bankruptcy, and people stopped flying private jets. And by February 2009, I had to lay off every employee that I'd spent the previous 7 years hiring, training, motivating, cultivating a set of shared mission, vision, and values. And it was agony, because I had this feeling all through that process that I didn't do anything wrong. And that was the inner dialogue all the time in 2008, 2009. I did nothing wrong. I didn't cheat anyone. I didn't break my word. I didn't break any rules. Why is this happening to me? This is not fair. This is not fair. This is cruel. Why are people doing this to me? And that was a terrible state of mind to put myself in. And because there's no resourcefulness from that state of mind, there's no reaching out to engage with others, there's no using where I am to create something new. It's just anger, bitterness, and shame. And I spent most of 2009 in that state of mind. And I think the thing that has inspired me to teach was in 2009, I came to some sort of sense of why this did happen. And my answer for myself is, this has happened to me so that I can work the rest of my life to make sure it never happens to anybody else. That nobody gets as low as I've got without someone at their side who can help them on that path and just steer them from getting as deep and negative as I did. And the way I taught prior to 2008 was like a consultant. I showed up with my 60 PowerPoint slides and I went through them slide after slide after slide. My great fear in the years of teaching up to 2008 is, what do I do if I finish my PowerPoint and there's still some minutes of class? And I remember I was so scared of this. Like, what if I finished all the content and there's still time with the class? After 2008, I don't use PowerPoint because I just thought, I passed every test in school. I have an MBA. How did I fail so miserably? It's not the lesson in the PowerPoint. It's taking responsibility for your life. It's looking at what's possible for you. It's getting around people that want the best for you and ask you good questions. And that isn't just being nice to you. Sometimes you need around you the people who are willing to tell you the things you really don't want to hear, that they're painful. But the only feedback that is really touching on what you really need to change is something you really don't want to hear. And, so few human beings are skilled in giving good feedback that it's very easy to get angry about the clumsiness with which someone has given you the feedback and ignore the gold of truth that is hidden inside the clumsily provided feedback. I don't know if you've come across an organization called Toastmasters.
Yes.
But Toastmasters around the world is an organization where people voluntarily go along to get better at speaking in public. And Toastmasters, it helps you become a good speaker. But I think much, much more fundamentally, every person that I've met that has gone through more than a year or two of Toastmasters loves receiving feedback. And the more painful and horrific and crushing you feel you're getting, the more excited they're getting, because Toastmasters as an organization really instills in people that the greatest gift that you can get is feedback that hurts, because that's what's going to mean that your next speech is better. And I guess the spirit with which I teach my classes today, the spirit with which I run my businesses, is a belief that challenge is the most important thing that we can find for our lives. If your life is empty of challenge, and for many adolescents, their life really is empty of meaningful challenge, which is why video games become so wonderful, because a video game is a meaningful challenge. If school was as meaningful as Fortnite, imagine how well adolescent boys in Ireland and Spain and India would be doing. But what we fail to do for kids at school is convey to them how valuable and meaningful the subjects that we learn in school are. Because no one has to motivate a young boy to play Fortnite. And I think there was a question on managing millennials, which struck me. And I have very little experience of managing millennials. My teaching and my business, we work with CEOs of businesses over 5 million euros here. And the average age of the group around me in my business is over 60, because I'm looking for experienced mentors that have been through 3 or 4 crises. They've lived through something like this, maybe not on this scale or not caused by the same cause, but they've lived through the internet. They've lived through the financial crisis. They've lived through a company going bankrupt. I think I've lived through a company going bankrupt. The way I take decisions now is different than it could possibly have been. No education on going bankrupt is as powerful as living through it in your own life. So, what I think is people, the class of millennials, I can't talk too much about, but I can talk about I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter, and they've grown up in the world of the iPad. And very often in classes, one of the speakers will give a talk about how they should remove technology from the home, remove technology from their kids, remove iPads from dinner table or through the night, that it's a bad influence. My attitude is an iPad is a wonderful indicator that your life is boring. If your child finds more interest in playing with the iPad, rather than banning the iPad, I'd look seriously at your life. Is your life a shining light of inspiration? Do you have hobbies that when you do it, the people around see you glowing because you're doing something that you love? Or has your life become so empty of hobbies and meaningful work that you have to ban iPads in order to get people to pay attention to you? So I think the real danger is being a leader around people who are politically correct. A leader around people that, even if it's uninspiring what the company does, even if you don't take time to get to know them, they show up anyway. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we're starting to have generations of people that say, that's not enough for me. I don't want to work just to pay the bills. I want to do work with people that care about the work, with people that care about each other, with people that care about our clients as real human beings with real issues, not sources of revenue. And to me, my daughters, also one of the powerful things that I see is when I first started as a teacher, I felt that I was the one with information and I shared information to the participants. what I've realized with my daughters and what I've realized in my classes is if somebody wants to know, it's on Google, it's on YouTube, it's in a million different places. They already know. So the only reason today why someone doesn't know how to do something is that they're missing two things. One, a belief that it's important, and two, a belief that they are capable. And that my role as a teacher in a business school is to put two beliefs into every person in the room during the progress of our time together. And the first is a belief that this skill is important for my future. And the second is a realization that if I choose to do the work, I can be as skilled as anyone around me, and I can get much more skilled than I am right now. And if I finish my program and you're terrible at the content right now, but I can see in your eyes that you're going to make this a habit the rest of your life. You're going to do practice. You're going to do the work. You're going to put yourself out there. You're going to do homework. And to me, homework is the work you don't have to do. And I think one of the things that will distinguish the gig economy, which the project-based economy, is individuals' ability to dedicate time to work that they don't have to do. If you only do the work that you have to do, so I'll let you get your call there.
No, I'm sorry. I just, I didn't know it got synced with my laptop. I'm so sorry.
Not to worry. Gave me a chance to drink here. But I'm kind of going on motor mouth flow. So if you want to pull me back to stuff that works for you, go for that.
No. This is beautiful.
Yeah, so I think as a leader, whether it's a leader of a class as a teacher, a leader of other human beings in a company, a leader of a family, being the one that knows the answers is a terrible state of mind to approach other people with. I think anyone around the world that has any type of technology, which is pretty much 4 billion people connected to Facebook. 4 billion connected to the internet in some way, 1 billion on Facebook, and I'm sure these numbers are 2 years old, that access to information is not what makes a leader. It's giving people the belief that there's a future that needs them to put some effort in. If you can give that sense out to people, and I think as a leader, that needs to be a leader who's willing to challenge people as well as tell them good things. And this balance, we work very hard in Vistage, in my company here in Spain, which is part of a global business called Vistage. There's 4 core values of Vistage: trust, growth, caring, and confrontation. And trust is the foundational block. Growth is the purpose. And caring and challenge are these combined tools that do all the work. And this balance of, I care deeply about you, but I'm going to challenge you more than anyone has challenged you before. If I think about my teacher, Mr. Matz, that to me was the best teacher I've ever had, it wasn't because he was just permanently positive. He probably told me when I let him down in a much more harsh way than many other teachers. I would never deliver low quality work to Mr. Matz. He probably wouldn't say anything, but I could see in his eyes his disappointment. And I remember my feeling with Mr. Matz was a sense that he saw a much bigger person inside me than I had ever seen. And what he got out of me when I was 14 wasn't the work a 14-year-old that was capable of. It was what he believed I was capable of. And I hope in some way I have a tiny part of what Mr. Matz was able to convey to me, to the students that I have the luxury of having today, that they, through my eyes, see not the image of them as they are today, but a bigger version of themselves, a person that's capable of much more than they have done before. But that comes with, one, I care about what's important important to them. And I want to connect with why they're motivated to do the things they do. But at the same time, I'll challenge them on bullshit. So when I ask a young person why they want to work in a company, and their answer is what I know to be stolen from a website answer. This is not their answer. This is the answer they think the world should be given answer. I will challenge them on that bullshit. And I will grind them down until they start to go, actually, I have no idea what I want to do. I don't know who I am. I don't really know how to distinguish between this company or that company or where to go in the world. Good. Now we can begin. Until now, you were lying to me and pretending. Now we can begin from a base that we can both agree. And Socrates would say that the wisest are those that know that they know nothing. And it's such a hard thing to daily bring yourself back and remain open and curious and think that things that I don't understand, it's probably not because the other is stupid. It's because my eyes aren't ready to be able to appreciate it. There's a wonderful story that I need to find a better way of conveying in a class. So maybe Ash and peopleHum, you can work with me on how we convey this idea in a more meaningful way. So the story, 20 years ago, there was a tribe in Borneo that had never before had contact with the outside world. And 20 years ago, they were discovered. And 20 years ago, a group of psychologists brought 6 members of the tribe down to Singapore. So they brought them out of their hilltop village and they showed them the city of Singapore. They showed them skyscrapers. They showed them offices. They showed them electricity, airports, airplanes, homes, ovens, fridges, air conditioning, heating. They saw supermarkets. They saw how agriculture worked. And after 7 days, they took the 6 members of the tribe back up to the mountain. And in the jeep, in the last bit of the dirt track before they arrived at the village, the psychologist asked them, what struck you? What if there's one thing that struck you, what would it be? And the 6 members of the Bornean hill tribe speak together and they're very passionate. They've clearly seen something that has really excited them. And after a little bit of discussion together, they turn and they tell the psychologists. And they say, the wheelbarrow. So we are just like the Borneo hill tribe. Anything that is beyond our current level of problem is magic. We just don't even see it. So they saw a skyscraper, they didn't see a building. They saw a tall tree. They saw an airplane, they didn't see an airplane. They saw a bird. The wheelbarrow was the one thing that connected directly to a real problem that has been part of their lives since time eternal. And the 6 members of that hill tribe were going back up to their village thinking, we've seen paradise. All of our lives we've carried weight upon our shoulders. All of our parents and ancestors have carried weights. Now we'll pass to our children the great paradise, the wheelbarrow. Everything else is just beyond us. And I try and remind myself that I'm not the psychologist. I'm the member of the Borneo hill tribe. When someone who's fitter than me talks about how they stay fit, I'm hearing the parts of their story that resonate from my own capability of understanding. I'm not getting the full depth. If Warren Buffett came and he said, Conor, I'm going to sit down with you and teach you everything about investing, I'd probably only be able to understand 2%. The rest would just be over my head and seem like magic. And I think teachers who are able to get students to appreciate how little we know and how beautiful that is, how wonderful it is to know so little. And that the role of a leader is not to know more, have better answers, be more clear. The role of the leader is to remind everyone how little we know, but with how small we are, there's two things that will never stop being true. It will always be important for you to be the best version of yourself. And it will always be important for you to get good at the gifts that you've been given. And no matter what happens in the world, whether there's crisis or not crisis, those two things will always remain true. I try and cultivate a motto in my company, in my classes, everywhere I go. And the motto is, we do hard things. And very often when I'm in the process of recruiting someone to come and join Vistage in Spain, at a certain point in time, I'll say almost jokingly, we do hard things. I tell them what you're going to come and do with Vistage is probably going to be one of the hardest things you have ever done in your life. Years from now, you're going to look back on this first year with us and think that was one of the most growth years of my life. But it's going to be really tough. And I looked them in the eyes and I said, and I guarantee 2 months from today, you're going to want to pick up the phone, call me and say, Conor, it's much harder than you said. And I said, and when you call me, I'll have a smile on my face and say, we do hard things. Tell me about it. Because I know you are learning, growing faster right now than you've ever grown in the last decade. And I hope you never stop doing hard things. So, as we come to the last few minutes here to make some sense of what we've been sharing, I think, our emotional state, you don't just choose to be angry or choose to be sad, but you choose what you look at. And you choose what meaning you give to what you look at. And sometimes that's something you can choose to do right now. Sometimes there's a practice of paying attention, a practice of deciding what types of things you're going to pay attention to. And I'm thinking in Spanish right now. The gratitude exercise is a practice of choosing what you pay attention to. If you sit down tomorrow morning and spend 10 minutes in the morning choosing to pay attention to your memories of things that you feel grateful for, you're teaching your mind, mind goes, she's interested in seeing more things she's grateful for. And during the day, your mind will go, look, and you'll see more things that you're grateful for. So this fundamental idea that we see this tiny percentage of what is actually going on in the universe around us. We have some degree of choice of which of those things we decide to place our attention on. We can't see it all. So we got to decide, do I want to see the things that are painful and bad and put me in a state of victimhood? Do I want to see the things that are positive, that raise me up, that remind me of the greatness of human beings, that want me to connect to other people as true human beings, not as vehicles or obstacles for my own goals? If you can make the choice to look and pay attention to that, that puts you in a different state of mind. Once you're in a different state of mind, emotional contagion, you're going to touch people with your way of being. In Vistage, we talk a lot about it's not what you do, it's how you are. And how you are, you're being yourself as a full, authentic human being is going to have a much more powerful effect on others in terms of leading them than following scripts or covering the 10 rules of this or 10 rules of that. And what I try and do with people is deep down, get down to a realization that every single one of us is incredibly powerful. Every single one of us has the power to give a compliment to another human being about something that matters to them. And to this day, it amazes me the reaction I can have in a student or a peer or someone in my team when I acknowledge how good they are at something that I know that they're good at. And all I'm doing is stating the obvious. But they look at me as if it's the first time anyone has acknowledged how good they are at something. So, to me, I'm very thankful that Mr. Matz came into my life when I was 14. I feel to some degree he handed over a light, and it's my role in life to just keep sharing this light with as many people as possible. And what we have with coronavirus or COVID-19 is a crisis that forces us to stop. There's an an Indian sage called Sadhguru, who I came across in the last few days on YouTube. And I don't know too much about who he is or what he represents, but he was saying that for thousands of years, the gurus have been saying, sit still, be with yourself in your home, and you'll find the truth in there. And for thousands of years, the words haven't worked. And finally, a tiny little virus that's so small we can't even see it has come, and we're now following the lessons that for 8,000 years Indian gurus have tried to share with people. That you find the right answer inside here, not outside. But we do live in a world where we've been trained to seek validation. And I think exams at school are the beginning of seeking validation. My 13-year-old daughter yesterday, she said to me, I only got 7 on the test. And I said, well, it's English. You speak English. What does the grade matter? She says, yeah, but I'm pretty much frustrated. My teacher only gave me 7. And I said, I'm much more interested about the learning you have, about the frustration you feel about your teacher giving you 7 than whether you got 7. What is it about this frustration that we can learn from? And she says, oh, Dad, stop talking that leadership stuff. It's annoying that I deserve to get a 10. And then I leave the question of deserving or undeserving out. So we've covered quite a range of stuff. We've got 5 more minutes. Is there any specific question or idea you'd like me to touch on or expand on?
No, not really. I think you've covered most of it, and it's been very, very insightful. And thank you for sharing all those broad details. But just what is it that you would want to convey to our audience at this point in time?
Yeah, I think I was pushed by a 14-year-old relative of mine. She asked me a year ago, "What's the most important lesson that you've learned in your life?" We were on holiday, we were in France, and I remember she asked it to me, and I could see in her eyes, she's not looking just for the knee-jerk answer. And I was about to answer, and I said, give me a day or two to think about that, because that's a question that deserves a proper answer. And 2 days later, I went back to her, and I said, Natia, I've got my answer. The most important lesson that I have learned in life. I said, it's the wisdom prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. The wisdom prayer of St. Francis of Assisi is, give me the strength to change the things that I can change. Give me the patience to accept the things that I cannot change. And give me the wisdom to tell the difference. And I think, as individual human beings, if each day we go, what can I change? I can change my state of mind. I can change what I look at. I can change my way of being with those that are directly around me. What can't I change? Coronavirus, the morbidity statistics, whether there's a hospital here or there. Can't change it. How do I get the wisdom to tell the difference? I think there is where mentors really play a role. And mentors don't have to be people, they can be books. I find biographies. We were saying here that we've never lived through a time like this. Well, there's novels set in 14th century England where there was the plague. Look at what that novel gives you about how those people, some died, some lived, some thrived. So we're not the first one ever to face any problem we face, whether you're a business person, whether you're an 18-year-old trying to decide which university to go and what to study, whether you're a 23-year-old deciding whether to marry this person or that person or go for a trip around the world, you're not the first person ever to have faced this decision. I would say there's no new human problems. Every problem you face, no matter how unique and individual it feels for you, there is another human being on this planet or who has been on this planet that has already passed through that challenge, and maybe they failed, maybe they've succeeded. You don't need a success for it to be a mentor. Someone who's truly screwed up their life can be a wonderful source of wisdom. I very often think I had, my father had two aunts. And I remember when we went up to the north of Ireland to visit my father's family, we would sometimes go and visit these two aunts. It was two ladies who lived together. And when I was 12, 13, 14, they were already in their 80s. And I can just remember, even at that age, when I came into their house, they just had this look on them of waiting for life to begin. They were in their 80s, they were living together, and the man had never shown up. Like, the blueprints had never shown up, and they were still waiting. They were waiting for life to begin. And all of life, they were just waiting. And it never came, and it never did begin. And as a 12, 13-year-old, seeing them, I remember coming back home and thinking, wow, I'm not waiting for life to begin. I don't know where the girl is. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not waiting at home for life to begin. I'm going to connect to people. I'm going to reach out to people. I'm going to ask for help. I'm not going to be 80 years old just sitting there waiting to see if the door opens and someone comes in and says, I'm here for you. And maybe the advice right now in COVID is you can reach out and connect to a lot of people on LinkedIn without leaving your home. You can listen to a lot of podcasts, videos without leaving your home. There's YouTube live stream sessions from all over the world. There's so much wisdom being shared. So, connect to some of that, listen to some of the things, ignore what doesn't resonate, get a notebook. When things don't resonate, write them down. When things resonate, write them down. Someone once told me the best book that you can ever read is one that's so bad that you think, I could have written a better book. And everyone should have on their bookshelf behind them a book that's so bad that you could publish a better book. Because that's what's going to inspire you to start writing. Not all the books that you think, wow, that's so good, I can never write one that well. The book it's published, but you look at it and you think, I could do better. And I have that book over here. I'm not going to tell you who wrote it and which book it is, but I have that book. And every time I look at it, I think, wow, I'm going to write a book.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much. And really, it's been very, very enlightening because so many concepts that you spoke about, right? It's more of, when you talk of Maslow's hierarchy, for example, you realize that you've conquered the first few stages. And now is the time when you think about self-actualization and your self-esteem. So a lot of these things that you spoke about, they start cropping up, right? And it's a beautiful concept of, actually, it's like lighting a candle and then lighting many more candles from your candle. So I think that's what struck with me when you spoke about how you can really help others, being a teacher. It's very important as well to motivate others and being there to challenge them so that they grow better in life. And absolutely, I love that philosophy. And really, thank you so much. I think a lot of our viewers are going to benefit from what you've just said. And it was wonderful talking to you, Conor, really. And thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure hosting you. Stay well, take care, and have a great day.
Wash hands, stay distant.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Pleasure, Ash. Bye-bye.